Joe Biden just said China is not that big a deal. You seem to be worried about it.
You know, I actually think that's stunning, and I love Joe Biden, but I think that's stunningly out of touch with where we are right now. I mean, if you look at what China's doing, they've got a 5-year plan, 10-year plan, 20-year plan, 50-year plan, 100-year plan. They're building islands in the South China Sea. They've militarized them, long-term raw material contracts in Africa. They're building bases in Africa. They have a Belt Road Initiative where they're building infrastructure projects. I saw a picture the other day, a rail line from northeast China all the way to Rotterdam. They are on the move. They are dominating electric vehicles. They're dominating solar. They're putting billions of dollars behind these projects. And they have a 100-year plan, Van. We're in a 24-hour news cycle.
Wow.
And they're winning.
Yeah.
That's the urgency that I'm bringing to this race.
You seem like Biden with maybe more here and forward leaning. Is Biden? I mean, he's got a similar passion for those, but is Biden a mistake? Is Biden kind of going back?
The China comment worried me a little bit, but I love Joe Biden. Like I was just on the trail with him, and I just walk up to him. I'm like, I love you. Like that's literally what came out of my mouth.
It's gonna be hard to run attack ads against the guy.
Yeah. But I worry about the China comment. I think this is going to be about the future. I really do. I think it's going to be about who's the president that's going to allow us and help us dominate electric vehicles, who's going to steer that investment in the communities of color, into the Youngstown, Ohio's, and Akron, Ohio's, and Gary, Indiana's of the world that have been unplugged from any benefits of globalization for the last 30 or 40 years. I think the country's looking for a president to say, I get it, and I think I fit in that, and that's why I'm running, and I hope people will help me out, help me get there.
Hey, listen, I got to ask. Do we need all these people running? I mean, why is this happening, and how do you feel about it?
I think some should get out myself. I mean,
bet you do. I mean, is it going to hurt us? Is it going to help us? I mean, what do you think?
I don't think so. I know some people are kind of spooked by it, and like we got to get somebody to run. This is going to play out. We're Democrats. Let's have the ideas primary. Let's figure out where the country needs to go. Clearly, things aren't running well around the country for a lot of people. Education, agriculture, farmers aren't doing well. There's a lot of inequality, criminal justice. I mean, there's all of these issues. Let's have a big conversation about them.
Well, let's talk about that, because there does seem to be a kind of a basic split where, on the one hand, you have people like Biden. They're saying, hey, let's return to normalcy, return to decency, and they're making that kind of appeal. And then you've got the Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren who are saying, listen, the old status quo was broken to begin with. We don't want to return to anything. We want to disrupt and go forward in a different direction. Who do you think has the better argument?
I think we need reform. I think, we have to be decent. We have to be respectful. That has got to be a part of the next iteration of the country, is where we get back to listening to each other, respecting each other. We can't be so divided, because no matter what the plan is, it's not going anywhere if we're divided. We've got to come together as a country. But I'm on the reform side. I mean, I just think the government is outdated, and sometimes the Democrats go out of their way to defend the indefensible. I mean, our education system needs totally reformed. I mean, our kids are coming into our schools, in many instances, traumatized. Just life. Over 50% of the kids who go to our public schools are low income.
I see.
They live in homes that have violence. They live in communities that have violence. And what we've learned over the last 20 years is that when you're traumatized, you literally can't, you're in fight or flight mode. You literally can't access the part of your brain that you need to learn. So I'm promoting reforms around social and emotional learning as a foundational component to educating our kids.
I know where you come from, and I know that this is real to you. What can we do, though, about the robots that are coming? I mean, the automation. I mean, you mentioned automation and AI, like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That stuff scares the crap out of me, because I don't know how we compete.
It's scary.
Are there policies or things that you would do to help?
I mean, here's what I would do, and I'll tell you a quick story.
Yeah.
When we lost Youngstown Sheet and Tube, which was like the world premier steel manufacturer in Youngstown in the late 70s, when that went belly up, the technology in the steel mills was pre-World War I. Mm-hmm. The steel industry put their head in the sand. They ignored what was happening around the globe and the competition, and we're still recovering today in Youngstown and in the Gary, Indiana, these steel-producing areas. I think we're at that same inflection point today with AI, with additive manufacturing, and I think we have a choice. We can bury our heads in the sand like the steel industry did, and the whole country will look like the industrial Midwest, or we can grab these technologies and dominate them and infuse them into our industries today, crank up productivity, and then make sure we cut these workers in on the deal so that we get middle class wages up. And yes, they're going to displace people along the way, but that's a much better position to be in because you'll get the benefits of what happens in the economy. Or the alternative is you let China dominate them, and then they dominate the industries, and we're going to get screwed anyway.
Yeah. Part of what I'm trying to understand, though, is you're trying to deal with that part, getting an economic agenda going forward, but you still have Trump and the Trump administration out there. I mean, forget their economic policy. They don't seem to respect the Constitution in the same way that you or I might want them to do. What is your view of the a proper approach for the Democrats in the face of this kind of behavior from the administration?
I think we continue to do what we're doing. I mean, he makes the case, he makes the argument, and I think sometimes we get caught up on the 35 or 40% that are rock solid with Trump and very loud on social media. They tend to have a big impact, but the reality of it is people don't like the way he behaves. You know, where I come from, people have consequences if they act out of line, not following the law. I think we win that, though. At the end of the day, this is another 18 months. What's the national stress level today? I mean, forget the GDP and the unemployment rate. I want the national anxiety level, and let's start building the economy around that. And I think it's people are exhausted.
Yeah,
they're exhausted. And I think if we provide a good alternative that has a good economic plan, that cares about people, that's tolerant, that's big-hearted like America is, I think we take Trump out. I really do.
Well, it's possible. It's possible. You don't seem exhausted. That's a good thing. You don't seem exhausted. But help me understand how you make sense of, on the one hand, these incredible economic numbers. On the other hand, Trump's personal performance and characteristics. How is that landing and playing in the heartland?
Well, I think I really don't believe those numbers. I think we've blown past the old metrics. The stock market's up. The unemployment rate obviously is very, very low. But 40 to 50% of American families could not survive a $400 or $500 emergency. I mean, that means your tire blows, somebody gets sick in your family and you don't have the proper insurance, some other tragedy happens, your economic viability goes down the tubes. And so I don't think these metrics today are actually capturing what people are really going through.
Like the economic insecurity. So Mulvaney has a case to make, though, that even the numbers themselves give people a sense of hope. Will people vote for Donald Trump, even though they don't like him, if the numbers keep moving the way they're moving?
Well, we've got to have a good campaign, obviously, whoever the Democratic nominee is, and we've got to talk about the future. I mean, Trump is still talking about the past. He's talking about steel mills and coal mines. Coal jobs are down 30,000 in the last 10 years. You know these statistics better than anybody. The future is in electric vehicles, solar, wind, artificial intelligence, additive manufacturing. These are industries that are growing at 25 to 30% a year. The President of the United States has no industrial policy for us, no agenda to capture these markets, and quite frankly, we're getting our clock cleaned by China. China dominates 40% of the electric vehicle market. They dominate 60% of the solar panel market. We've got to get our act together here.
What is he not doing that you would do if you had the opportunity?
The President of the United States has the ability, the power to galvanize the economy, to catalyze around certain industries. If I was President of the United States, within the first week or two, I would be sitting down with the big three auto companies, the next generation electric vehicle manufacturers in the United States, the Department of Energy, the Department of Transportation, venture capital, and the business community, and figure out how can we dominate the electric vehicle market. Then I think a week later, we do solar and we do wind. We need to dominate these industries of the future because we're falling behind right now, Van, and at some point we're not going to be able to catch back up.
Well, look, I mean, I'm fired up. That's good. No, I mean it's good that somebody actually has a plan to do something because, like you said, the number is going up, but certain industries fall. Strategy in the House is run by the Speaker of the House.
Yeah.
You ran to be Speaker 2016. You tried to get somebody to run against Pelosi in 2018. You seem to be a critic of Pelosi often. How do you think she's done these first 100 days or so?
I think she's doing a great job.
Huh.
I mean, it was never personal. I mean, Trump won. The blue wall fell. We completely lost our connection to the working class people, white, black, brown, gay, straight. I just feel like the workers of this country felt like the Democrats are more of a coastal party, more focused on coastal issues, and I felt like we needed to do something to reconnect with them. But I've always had enormous respect for Nancy Pelosi. I think actually at this moment in time, she's there at the exact right time when the challenges to Article 1 of the Constitution, the House of Representatives, the Senate, are under attack by this president. I think she's the perfect person to be there because there's nobody that understands that world better than her. It was a family discussion that we had.
That's great.
She won the starting quarterback position, and I'm the backup cheering everybody on.
That's good. That's great. You did a good job with that. Hey, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, sometimes you're so strong on the industrial working class stuff, and that's often read as white folks. Some of the same problems and pain you're talking about in some of those, declining white communities, they're right there in the black community, right there in the Latino community.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about what's in your heart and in your plan and in your playbook for African American, Latino, Native American, for that part of the party?
Absolutely. And I'm not the one who ever says, oh, Tim Ryan's just for white people. I mean, people don't understand. Youngstown, Ohio is almost 50% African American. Yeah. I mean, I've been representing these interests for a long time, and they are similar in a lot of ways. We have to get rid of the structural racism in the criminal justice system. That has to happen. Because it's limiting opportunity. I mean, that's really at the end of the day, the big problem. There's not opportunity in communities of color. I'm going to be proposing an urban Marshall Plan in which we go into urban communities. I think we've got to clean them up. I don't think there's any reason why we have to have the level of blight that we have. Right. Some of these towns have thousands and thousands of homes that need to come down.
And downtowns that are empty as well.
We need to invest in our downtowns. We need to renovate theaters, river walks, clean up our rivers, and entice businesses to come back to our community centers, especially in these small and mid-sized towns. I want a robust urban agriculture program in the United States. I want to get. It is fresh, literally.
Yeah.
I want to get healthy food into these communities. We have high rates of diabetes, especially in communities of color, and it's largely based on the diets. So let's actually invest into healthy foods, clean up these towns, get schools with social and emotional learning and vocational training. Let's get prepared to compete against China in the 21st century.
Listen, that sounds awesome. I think part of the challenge, you got great ideas. I mean, a little bit on the nose about the climate crisis. Is that something that you're concerned about? Or
I'm frightened about it, I think, like we all are. And I think talking about it, because when you talk about those people at General Motors who lost their job or the truckers who lost their job, they don't have the luxury to worry about climate change. They've got a mortgage coming. They've got their kids they're trying to educate. They got health care issues. They don't know what's happening with their retirement. It's not that they don't care. It's not that they don't understand. It's like they don't have the bandwidth. And so I'm trying to frame this in a way, and I want to invite people in to be a part of this broader conversation. And come to timryanforamerica.com and be a part of this conversation because it is fresh. It is different. But if the Democrats aren't for reform, if we're not for the future economy, then what are we doing as a political party? It's time. It's go time for us, especially around climate.
Yeah, look,